Good move, yeah. I know it's a sinus infection.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Judy, can you do the roll?
Okay, Deb Allen. Here. Gwen Elgire. Here. John Ahrens.
Here.
T.F. Taxiatis.
Here.
Rick Foster.
Present.
Dan Hines.
Here.
David King.
Here.
And I am here.
Okay. I want to welcome, I should have done this for the land bank too. I want to welcome Deb Allen and Gwen Elgar as new members. We look forward to working with you and getting input from you and see what we can accomplish.
Thank you.
Anything either one want to say?
I look forward to learning with you.
Same.
I'm in the same, I've only been on in this land bank for 1 year, so I've been so has David 1 year, so starting to catch on to the acronyms and all the buzzwords, so it'll come. Public comment. None. Director comments. Trudy?
No comment.
Consideration of agenda. We're going to have a healthy discussion when we get to new business item 1, and T needs to leave at a certain time, and I think the most important thing is to accomplish that, so among other new items. But I'm going to suggest we table item D, review and adopt the bylaws, till next month, which would help speed things up on that. Do I have a motion to accept the corrected agenda?
So moved.
Support.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes 7-0. Conflict of interest. Is there any member here today that needs to bring up an actual or potential conflict of interest regarding anything that's on the agenda today? Hearing none, we'll move on. Annual organization items. Election of officers. So number 1, we have an opening. We have to elect a chairman. I currently am the chairman. Do we have any nominations for this year?
I'll nominate Dan Hines as chairman.
Second. Are there any other nominations for a chairperson? I'll close the nominations then. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you, I appreciate it. Promise to do my best. Vice chairman. Currently, that is Rick Foster.
I nominate Rick Foster for vice chair, if he accepts it.
Support.
I nominate T.
I think you're doing a nice job, so why
Such
change it?
that he's going to be chairman next month, because I'm unable to be here next month, so yay. Any other nominations for vice chair?
You have a
Okay.
nomination, but not a second.
Yeah, Rick. No.
Rick nominated
Deborah.
T, but I didn't hear a second.
No, T nominated the vice chairman, and Deborah seconded, right?
I
For Rick.
did the first one for Rick.
Okay.
And you don't
D
care to
and
be?
then
No.
T.
Okay.
He's doing good, unless he does want it.
Looks like he's
All those in
acceding.
favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes 7-0. Secretary Treasurer, currently held by John Ahrens. Do we have a nomination for that combined position this year?
I would nominate John Ahrens for secretary treasurer if he wants that position.
Support.
Support by Gwen. Any other nominations? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes 7-0. So now we go to,
May I interrupt real quickly?
Sure.
I think I was supposed to get a signature card for some account at some point, or a credit card. That's like last year, and I don't know if it ever happened or not.
Okay,
good question. I brought that up, I think at the land bank meeting too, for whoever it was, Ishberding, I think. And John and Trudy said that we already have Rick on,
John on
And John.
myself.
Okay, so there's already someone who can. do
and
it.
I said, well, why hasn't Ishberding gotten the card? He said, well, I know we already got a couple on there already. And- But I'm just, yeah, good observation.
Let me double check all that with the bank.
And same thing for the Breakup Land Bank. Rick's gonna sign something today, regarding to the land bank, a check. He's a check signer, that's why we use him, so. Okay, so now the, consideration of the meeting dates for this year. And there is going to be a Brownfield convention a week before the August regular meeting, so whoever we send to that meeting in Detroit won't conflict with our Brownfield meeting. So do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second. T. Rick. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes 7-0. Item B, we're tabling to next month. And
But
now-
you won't be here.
I know, that's the beauty of it.
Pretty clever.
I'll tell Trudy what my suggestions are. So now, we're up to approval of minutes. So pages, starting at 23 of 32.
I move approval of the December 20th, 2022 meeting minutes as presented.
Support.
Here we got that by T. Two little small things I want to bring up though, on page 26. Start with 26. The third beginning of the third paragraph where it says, Extafidis said, the last time we talked about this, that should be a comma, not a semicolon, I think. Then 2 lines below us and provide an update, question mark, Hines felt the developer's October 18th letter was in response to use. I think it should be us. And I just want to bring this up now, before we get to new business item 2. The last paragraph there before the 6-0 motion says, Hawkins asked if we wanted to use language from the statute, or is this a friendly request? We have done a friendly request already. Janik said to put it on the agenda in January, and if he doesn't come to respond, start the official process to terminate. So keep that in mind when we get to that. And then page 27, public comment, the second paragraph where Eric Carlson mentioned that he was at the Elmwood Township Planning Commission meeting. And in the second line, it says, granted West Bay a 1-year extension for the marina work, which does not include removing some soils. I thought it does include. Maybe Deborah can.
I was just looking to see if Jeff had already left.
It does, yeah, it does, instead it does not. Because then I'm thinking, oh wow, the Brownfield is going to be able to have more work, more allowable expenses to make the marina deeper and things like that. So I'm suggesting we take the word not out, unless I'm wrong. Okay. And then, under member chairperson comments, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The ninth line says acting administrator for a time. The next sentence I would delete because it's the same thing that was said in the sentence, in the line above. The next line, for making his job a lot easier throughout their attendance and participate, it should say participation. Then where the 4 lines down where it says even though Bail, it should be Bailey. And then the next line, committees period, she, it should say he, me, because I was the one that congratulated him for 10 years. So, T, do you want to agree to an amendment of?
Yes, so I move approval of the minutes with the revisions just discussed by the chair.
And David, do you want to?
Support.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes 7-0. Do I have a motion for the consent agenda? Items, pages 28 through 30. We're going to discuss the payment of that under claims and accounts anyway.
So moved.
Support.
Support was Deborah.
Yes.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes 7-0. Old business, none, Trudy?
None.
New business, here we go. Request for RFQP proposals for consultants regarding EPA assessment grant. No handouts. That, I was one of 2, I think, that came to pick up the 4 presentations with 4 proposals. And the other members are the ones that are just getting it for the first time. I know that they haven't had a time to review it. We are going to have Trudy give her verbal review of it and comments. T has made an extensive spreadsheet of things that he wants to bring up regarding each one. We need to approve a consultant, engineering firm consultant, before we can move forward on anything regarding this, this EPA assessment grant. Once we approve somebody, then Trudy needs to send it to EPA and get them to approve it, approve that firm as one, and then we can start going forward from there. So it's a 3-year plan, it's a 3-year period that we have this, but we want to give due diligence to the 4 firms that have presented this to us. And the question will be between, well, I must admit, I must tell members here, and I'm maybe missing some things here, but T has made a career out of doing these projects. He is, in my estimation, is notable for being quite involved in the Grand Traverse Commons redevelopment and all the Brownfield deals that they've done on an ongoing basis. So we have an in-house expert as it relates to this. So, and Trudy has been on the Brownfield since inception, right? As a director, 2008. So we have a lot of knowledge right here to where it'll be this committee's decision, but maybe after a thorough review and discussion of what they have to say, and I can give you some of my comments, that maybe we don't have to go through a couple extra steps, which would mean an extra meeting or 2 after we have appoint somebody to review it that hasn't already read it, things of that nature. So we're not at that point yet. Let's go through the 2 reviews, and I'll give my comments too, which will be minuscule compared to what they have. So start with Trudy.
Okay, so we put this out for bid in December, I want to say, and maybe it was even November. We put it up on BidNet, which is a Michigan website, so vendors and suppliers can go to this site and see what government agencies are posting up there for services or things they sell. For instance, when we sell vehicles that we no longer need for the sheriff's department, we put them up there and we bid on. So there were 39 companies that I know downloaded our RFP because I can see that report. And then we received 4 proposals. So the 4 proposals we received were from Triterra, SME, GEI Consultants, and Fishbeck. So 4 companies responded. And I know Dan Hines picked up his copies, and T picked up copies and went through those. And as Dan mentioned, he's done quite an extensive review. So what you have now is the opportunity to proceed in selecting one of these firms. I did have a conference call with our EPA representative about a week ago. She wanted to know, where are we at in the process? What progress are we making on the grant? She is a young EPA hiree and very aggressive, very on top of things. I have not worked with her in the past, but she's very much on top of, what are you doing? What have you accomplished, and so forth. So I let her know where we're at in the hiring process, and she wants to know as soon as we hire a consultant. Just one correction is what Dan said is after you hire a consultant, EPA doesn't approve the consultant, but the consultant has to do a QAP, which is a quality assurance project plan, and they have to submit that to EPA. Before they do that, there will be a conference call that I will sit in on between the consultant and EPA. We'll go through everything, and then they have to develop their plan and submit it to EPA. That all has to be done and approved before they can work on any projects. So, of course, EPA is looking at all these grantees and tracking, where are you at in the process? Are you moving yet, Following that, we have to do community outreach, and she asked me about that as well. What do we have planned for community outreach and meetings and letting our community know this grant is available and how can it be used and so forth. So I explained to her the process that we've used in the past. We'll probably do like a community meeting here, as well as some individual meetings out in the community. So I think we're doing fine. The next big step, of course, is to get the consultant on board. So I reviewed these. I definitely had a firm that I thought rose to the top just by the amount of experience that they had, not only in working in EPA assessments, but also brownfield projects and working with the state and so forth. Some of the companies some of the things that stood out for me is a couple of the companies be charging for every single meeting that they come here, or even by Zoom, and travel cost. While that might not seem like a lot, that can really eat into the budget. And if we don't have enough through the grant spelled out for that kind of work, we're going to have to figure out a different way to pay them. And then there were a couple that their prices were much less, or even done as in kind, that they wouldn't be charging for those types of services to us. So I'll stop there and just turn it over to T and let him give you his evaluation if he wants to talk about. Oh, before I do that, just one more thing. You have a couple options here. Number one, you could, if you're comfortable with it through the discussion today, you could make a selection today. You could set up a team to review these in more detail and discuss it and bring a recommendation back to this board. You could even determine if you want to do any interviews and then do those interviews and bring it back to this board with a recommendation. So a couple of different paths that you could take to make your selection. I do want to point out, as Dan mentioned earlier, he will not be here for the February meeting. So it's, I think, some more discussion here today and see what you are comfortable with in the process to move forward to select a consultant.
One thing before T goes. We don't know what we don't know. By that I mean, we don't know what kind of jobs we're going to need. We don't know if they're going to be underground storage tanks, gas stations, or it's going to be Sugarloaf or whatever. So we don't know whether or not all of these experiences that these companies have is going to come into play for us. But we don't have money, if any, blighted industrial properties around Leelanau County. There's going to be, we got 3 years to use this money. But right now, when you applied for the grant, you mentioned some distressed or whatever properties in certain townships, without giving names.
Right.
Whether or not those develop into a brownfield, we don't know, but, so at that point, I mean, all this literature in here about we've done, we renovated a hotel in St. Clair, Michigan, and all that, whatever, it may not even apply to us, so that whether or not that expertise is gonna be something, it may, but we don't know, that's why I say we don't know what we don't know. So T?
Well, as Dan mentioned, I look at those 4 proposals with a number of perspectives. One being a member of this group. Secondly, I know and I have dealt with in one form or another with all 4 companies that submitted proposals. One of them, I have worked with the people in the company, excuse me, but not the company itself. I worked with them prior to them joining the company. I have evaluated those 4 proposals based on a spreadsheet that I created a number of years ago. I have served as Brownfield environmental consultant for a number of Brownfield authorities like these. Essentially, I've been doing what Jeff is doing for us or his company. Over the years, I've been involved in evaluating proposals for similar consulting services. I'm aware that there can be things such as bid protests, and a company may not like our decision, and for whatever reasons, and they have the right to ask for documentation on how we made a decision, and look at any documents that we have generated to come to a decision. So I normally go, and I did in this case, through all of the information provided by the 4 companies in response to our request for qualifications and proposals, both in terms of qualifications, but also in the cost, for the costs. As related to the qualifications, 3 of the 4 companies I feel can provide all of the services that we need or that we may need. One of the firms has good environmental background, but not brownfield redevelopment. And even though this is an it's an assessment grant, we still, and we express that in the request for proposals, we want to deal with a company that has brownfield redevelopment background, because the environmental work that may be done under the grant will result, hopefully, to redevelopment projects. Therefore, the firm needs to thoroughly understand the brownfield redevelopment process, the ins and outs, and the written and unwritten
state and federal requirements. Of the three companies that provide, that I felt that have all of the qualifications that we have requested, one stands out, both in terms of number of individuals that can provide the services that we need, as well as the depth of experience that some of these individuals have and they can bring to us. So as related to the qualifications, one of the four firms stood out for me. However, the cost of doing the work is something that we have to take into consideration. And in the request for proposals, we asked the firms to provide labor rates, essentially the people that, the rates for the people who will be doing the work. And also we gave them a hypothetical sample of a phase 2 environmental assessment that we may need in the county. And we asked the firms to give us a cost for doing a phase 1 environmental assessment, a phase 2 environmental assessment based on some well-defined quantities of work that we provided, because we wanted to make sure that we compare apples with apples, because different firms may approach in different ways, and therefore by giving them some specific requirements for that phase 2 environmental assessment, we're able now to compare the cost of those four firms for doing that work. And then we asked them for a baseline environmental assessment cost. Prior to doing that, I had estimated what those costs should be based on what the industry charges pretty much. Understanding there is some variation, and the three of the four firms were within few $1,000s of each other, and from within few $1,000s of what I had estimated. One of the firms, their costs for phase 1, phase 2 ESAs and a BA were the phase 2 environmental assessment, the cost for that was substantially lower than the rest, like about half. And in my estimation, either they didn't understand the scope, or they did not read the instructions, or they may have attempted to buy the job, which is something that is done sometimes. So what then I did is I said, okay, let's put aside the costs for the well-defined work that we gave them, and using the labor rates that the four firms provided for the employees that would be doing that work, I made some assumptions about how many hours or quantities of work may be needed during the year from the selected firm. So I took the rates of each of the firms that they provided, labor rates and costs for doing the Brownfield plan for meetings that we wanted to attend. And then I evaluated the cost, given their rates, the cost of providing the same level of services to the authority. So I assume that we're going to do X number of, I can give you some numbers. Again, that's a guess on my part of what level of effort would be expended, but I assigned the same level of effort to all 4 firms. So then I took the rates, multiplied to come up with a number. And indeed, the firm that had the lowest cost for the for the phase 2 environmental assessment that we specified, when compared with the others, if anything, they were higher. Their cost was higher than the other firms. So based on costs, the firm that I believe has the highest qualifications also has similar costs to the other 2 firms. So based on all of that, and that's it. And by the way, some of the firms did not provide all of the rates that I was looking for. For example, the multiplier on labor over the 3 years of the contract, markups on consultants, subcontractors, so again, and also some of the rates, they were not all the same. So I made some assumptions. I tried to look at what they have provided and most likely who would be doing what work. And then based on that, I came up with cost. So based on all of that, I'm prepared to I have made a decision about which firm I would propose to enter into a contract with. However, my recommendation is that since not everybody has had an opportunity to read the all proposals, that we put together a small group, I don't know, as many people as you want, without having a quorum, and just go through that evaluation and then make recommendation to the full board. But it's up to you. So,
Do you want to share what your choice is?
I could, however, I would like to know where everybody else is. I mean, is everybody else ready? Yes, I can. To me, it's very straightforward.
Maybe Trudy should give her recap before we go on. And David, you have a question?
Well, I mean, just to pick up on that, I guess before we kind of get into more substance, I appreciate the substance, the subject matter deep dive as someone who hasn't, I neither have that subject matter expertise nor haven't had the opportunity to roll through the specific documents yet. I would fully support the idea of coming up with some small ad hoc committee to roll through it and then present in writing, sounds like with, the substantive documentation behind it to the full board for evaluation at a future meeting. And I'd probably like to leave my preference would be to leave your recommendation to yourself at this point. I don't have one.
I would agree with that. I'm not, saying when giving my vote on this matter right now about my opportunity to review the materials. First of all, thank you so much for the amount of work you put into this. That's awesome. If I have an opportunity, is there any way I can see that evaluation spreadsheet that you did?
Yeah, if we set up a group to evaluate the proposals, I will bring this spreadsheet, I can put it on computer, on a screen, and kind of go through it, because I think it's important for everybody to understand, anybody who evaluates those proposals, to understand what all that information in the proposals really means, and how to compare apples with apples, because every company has its own ways of presenting information, and sometimes you have to read between the lines and look at alternative ways of evaluating that information.
And I was a state qualified contractor at one point. And sometimes you want to go after the work and get your foot in the door, and then we'll come back with additional billings. But other times you may not. So I just, again, that would be my primary thing, would be to take a look at the apples to apples comparison.
Correct. That's exactly right. That's what happens. But even with that, one firm for me stood out is they met all of the check marks. However, that's my evaluation. I think others need to do that. And we can go over that.
And they may actually just be cheaper.
Well,
You know,
they're pretty much, in
Because the
cost,
overhead-
they're pretty much the same when it comes
You may have
down to
different
it.
overhead, you may have, different insurance plans, you may have, cheaper offices, you may have fewer employees, there's any number of things that can change that multiplier. Anyway, just, I gotta look at it.
Yep, agreed. Couple of things, T. What is your opinion on whether or not we should have host a meeting and have 1, 2, 3, or 4 proposals discussed with the firms themselves? Is that
With
needed?
the firms present?
Yes. Well, one-on-one. It can't, yeah.
In my opinion, at this point, for me, it's not necessary.
Okay.
What I would do is I would, through Trudy, ask a couple of the firms to provide, and they can do this by email, some information that I have highlighted, such as the markups on subcontractors, and some of the firms have provided labor rates for the next 3 years for the people, the key people, and the categories. Some did not. That I think is something that we should receive. Just to have that information on the record, but even without it, to me, there is enough for me to make a decision. But I would like, for the record, to have some additional information, and Trudy can request that by email to the specific firms, and we can have a response in the next, should have in the next couple of days. There is nothing really difficult that they have to create.
So T, you mentioned that at some point you said the firms may come back and request, why did you make a decision?
Sure.
Okay. So with that in mind, you have your own personal spreadsheet, your own personal work product. If we have that at our disposal, then it becomes part of our meeting agenda, minutes, and all that stuff, which if there's one of, or 3 of the 4 people that are turned down want to start saying, well, that man didn't have the right box check. We did, look on a different page. Are you ready to open yourself up to that kind of thing?
Yes, I've done this a number of times. And that's really the reason for doing that. It's an objective way of evaluating companies on an apple-to-apple basis as much as possible.
Okay. Trudy, you wanna give your,
Well, sure. Let me say first that as director, I don't give the recommendation to you. I try to guide you and show you, here's the process, here's what you need to do. But it's up to all of you as to how we move forward and what firm we work with. I work with any company that gets hired. I did bring all the proposals today in case you make a decision on how you want to move forward, and we need to hand out proposals and work on that stuff. So if you want to make a decision before the next meeting in February, that would require us calling a special meeting following whatever process you're going to do. I'm assuming, I'm saying this as if you were to set up some review group. So if you wanted to do that and then make a decision before your February meeting, we would set up a special meeting, which is not difficult. I need to do an 18-hour notice, get it posted and so forth in case there's a special meeting called to select a firm. Otherwise, you can do that process and we'll put it on the agenda for your February meeting to make a decision.
Is there any disadvantage of waiting until February?
Time, because EPA is waiting to find out what they're doing. And, like I said, the next step is to then secure a contract with the firm. That's going to take some time. We have to run it through corporate counsel. I'll use one of our past contracts that we've used for assessment grants as a starting point. We have to go through that, and then they have to do the call with EPA and then file the QUAP. So we're looking at some months here yet.
Could we have I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, is there a downside to us not making a decision until February?
I didn't hear the last part.
Is there a downside to not making a decision until February?
Just the timing.
Is that a problem, or does it work?
It can work.
Okay.
do we have any prospective individuals or businesses ready to come forward at this point?
No, but we also haven't advertised that we have the grant funds.
So we gotta do all that.
Once we do that, we're going to have interest from individuals that are looking for assistance with assessment work.
Okay, we have.
Chair,
Go ahead.
can we have a special meeting in another week or so?
I can set that up
We,
if that's what you want.
yes, but,
If we set up a group, if we have a group, go over the proposals, make a decision in the next several days, then right after that, we could schedule a special meeting, make a decision, and so that Trudy can proceed dealing with the EPA and all of the other requirements.
the special meeting would have to be duly posted and all
Absolutely.
that kind of stuff and have a quorum.
Sure.
And meaning it's a public meeting,
Yes.
which means all four bidding firms have a right to be in the audience.
Absolutely.
During public comment section, say you missed this, whatever. So there's that aspect. Secondly, if we form a subcommittee or whatever you called it, even if there's just 3 members, not 4 would be a quorum, even if there's 3 members that want to be part of that, we still have to go through the postings and all that kind of stuff, right, Trudy?
Deb, maybe you can help out on this, because the county board with their subcommittee, with their committees, even if there's not a quorum, they still post them and hold them as a public meeting, correct?
They do. I don't
Yeah.
know. So I'd have to check with the clerk to see if it's separate for.
About an executive session.
Yeah, it's a working group.
Yeah.
Well,
If it's not a committee, if it's a interview team or review team, does that make any difference if we
Or a
don't set it up under a
work
committee
session.
under our bylaws?
could go ask real quick. See if I can get a determination.
So we're putting on a little pause here.
Yeah.
Okay, pause the recording then. So, do you want me to
Go
pose the question to Michelle? I'm gonna do it another way. Is there a way for this body to have a few members meet and review proposals for firms without having it being a public meeting with a public notice? So
I would
that,
say no, because when they review those documents, they're probably going to come back and make a recommendation to you as a
Right.
committee.
right, so then it's
So you
a
need to post
committee.
it. You want to be transparent and above board. I wouldn't touch it without posting it.
Thank you. That's good to
Okay.
know.
Okay, thank you, Michelle.
And I think you just read that.
Yeah.
Thank you,
didn't write
Michelle.
it, but-
Appreciate it.
So, could I offer one other
Go ahead.
suggestion? I don't know that this would be what you prefer either, but if everyone takes the proposals and reads them, we have a special meeting and the discussion held at the special meeting,
And a decision.
and a decision
that-
made then, so everyone,
And accept the fact that 4 members, representatives could be at the meeting.
well, no, this would be a full meeting, special meeting of the
Right.
full board, but
And that's
you
a
wouldn't
public meeting.
you wouldn't meet separately first. You would just each individually
Oh.
take the proposals, read them, figure
Yeah.
out what you want to ask or
No
whatever.
subcommittee, just.
Right, and
let's
then
meet.
come back to a special
Special.
meeting and discuss and hash it out there.
I would support that, because even if you had a small meeting, I'd want to listen in. I'm on a learning curve here. I want to get everything I can. So if we just have a special meeting, I can do that.
Can I request a copy of this spreadsheet data that you've got before this meeting, since you've got the packets?
So that would be then something that I provide personally to you.
Correct.
Sure.
Well,
So everybody wants it.
Could you
Okay.
provide-
why
Yeah,
don't we
everybody
do
wants
that?
it.
Again, are you, as a professional engineer or consultant, you're okay with that, having a work product like that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's why
You send
I
it as a
do
PDF,
this,
so I can't
so that I have
change it.
something objective if there is a question in the future, of course.
And if there are things that you want answered, I'm certainly willing to contact every firm
Yes.
saying, here's the 3 questions or
Yeah,
whatever
so
that we
there is
need
no any doubt.
information from, and then share it with everybody so you have it
Yep.
to review.
I was being somewhat flippant, but if you want to send it as a protected spreadsheet or a PDF or something that can't be edited, that would probably be wise.
I will do it, actually, yes, I will do it as a
Well-
PDF, and I can give you my evaluation, and I can give you a blank one. If
Then I
you
can
want to
plug the
go
same thing and
through
do the same thing.
7 hours of reviews.
Couldn't we also just take your sheet and copy it out there and take it back home?
Will that still
No, I'm
need
going
to
to,
be?
Yeah. Okay.
Special meeting packet. He doesn't seem to have a problem with it, so.
Yeah.
So it would be in the special meeting packet then, if that's the case. You're okay with that document being in there permanently?
yes, the
Okay.
blank one, I'll send it to everybody, it can be in the.
A blank one or your?
A blank one. Mine, I will discuss it personally.
So, and you won't give it to the meeting, the special meeting, but the comments that you do make will be for the record?
Of course,
Okay.
I have to.
Wait a minute, I just got confused. You're going to provide this, the work you did, but not in the special meeting packet?
I will provide to everybody and for the special meeting, a blank form of this, so that everybody can do their own evaluation if you want. At the special meeting, I can present the information that I have entered into the spreadsheet and discuss how I came up with that.
Okay.
And that, because that would be public information at that time.
Okay.
So, do you want to set a special meeting date? while
Yes.
I'm here?
Do we have a consensus that that's the way we want to go? Special meeting, do I need a vote on that?
I think that's the logical thing to go.
I support that.
Let's start with a vote on that we will, take the documents and study them individually and then convene in a special meeting sometime, hopefully this month, for the purpose of exchanging ideas and comments and conclusions, and hopefully make a selection at that time. Is there a motion?
Is that a motion?
Yeah, is there a motion? Ditto?
So moved.
Okay, second. So who was T, and then Rick? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes 7-0 for a special meeting.
I would like to move that we schedule that meeting for Tuesday, January 31st.
Can't be here, which is fine. I'm just 1 out of 7. I don't need to be
We
here.
can discuss it, that's the point. Let's pick a date so that we're not.
When do you leave for?
30th. And I can't be here on the Friday before the 30th, so whatever that is. But otherwise, the rest of this week and most of next week except for Friday.
How
But
about,
I'm just one member. so
how about Monday, the 23rd?
If it works for everybody else, it gives people 6 days to
I
review.
have a medical appointment on the 23rd at 10 a.m. So it'll have to be either quite early or in the afternoon.
On the 23rd, afternoon, late afternoon would work for me too.
It would not work for me, however.
Okay.
3 o'clock wouldn't work?
It wouldn't work.
Monday.
So here we go. Maybe we should just keep moving forward. Anything this week? Well,
Friday, the 20th.
I can't.
That's only 4 days.
Oh, yeah, that's this Friday, yes. Is that,
I have an appointment at 9 a.m.
we can meet later.
In the Friday afternoon, the 20th?
Afternoon, the building isn't, the space isn't needed then or whatever.
Late afternoon?
I think we'd be okay. Are you talking 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock?
What time?
I'll be available after 3.
This is on the 20th? Yeah, okay. I wouldn't be available, but that, again, it's not critical.
What about Tuesday, the 24th?
That day's wide open.
That's excellent for me.
How about Wednesday afternoon? The
On the
25th?
25th?
On the 25th?
I'm out of town next week. But that week. Yeah, nope.
So the
You're out of town
24th
all week?
Basically, yeah.
The 24th doesn't work for you, Glenn?
Trauma training is all day long.
Oh, okay.
The 25th in the afternoon, like at 2 or 3.
Without
But
David.
David, you're gone all
I'll
next
be
week?
out, yeah, the week of the 23rd.
Including the 23rd?
Yeah.
See, I knew this would, again,
Can I-
I'm just
How about-
one vote, and I got 1 year of experience on this whole
I
thing,
mean-
so I'm not gonna
Same
add
thing
a
with-
lot. You
How
can-
about the 26th at 9 in the morning? Or 10?
What day of the week is it?
I'm
That's
good.
Thursday.
Yes?
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I'm out, but I can't make it, but it's okay.
Everybody else okay with that?
Which, Judy, you're available? You don't
I
have-
I can make it work. 10 works better for me.
10 is always nicer than 9.
But you wanted PM. Oh, the
AM.
26th is gonna be AM.
Yeah,
And we struck out
26th.
on the 20th, right? That's too soon? That didn't work?
I think it was good for everybody else but me, but that, again,
Okay.
same thing.
I would prefer the 26th.
And David, you could still forward your comments to Judy?
Sure.
So how many do we have for the 26th? At 10 a.m.?
I can do 26th.
Okay.
Do we have to vote on that?
No, I made a motion, remember, for the date.
Already.
Oh, okay.
So I will amend that motion and just simply say, I move that we have our special meeting to review the request for proposals to the Thursday, the 26th at 10 a.m.
Support.
Who was that?
Me.
Okay,
Glenn.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
And what do you want that I forget?
Set your phone up to yell at you.
It doesn't matter.
Passes 7-0. Are we good, T? Do you still have time, or do you have to leave? Can we still move on?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have to leave until 10 to 12.
Okay, all right. All right, so everybody has a packet now on all the 4 proposals, right?
No, they're down
Nope,
here.
it's over there.
Okay.
Make sure you pick one up before we go. New business item 2, West Shores status. As mentioned a few minutes ago in reading last month's meeting minutes. Where do we stand on it? Trudy, do you have any communications with them?
Very quick communication for you. I emailed them, according to the last emails that we've had, some back and forth communication, and the email has come back to me undeliverable. And it took a couple days before I got that notice back. So now I'm going to submit a letter in writing to them and confirm that they received it. What I've heard from the township is they've had 3 extensions to this permit already. And the feedback I kind of got was that I don't know if they're going to have any more extensions from the township for their work. So I just don't know that this project is going to move forward. But I will reach out again by mail. I can send a certified mail to make sure that the developer receives the notice and responds to us. So I will invite him to the February meeting to see if he can either come to the meeting or respond by the February meeting so that we have some more input. And that's all I have at this point.
And you think that is what Janik said in those minutes, that either you play nice guy or you go tough?
Yeah,
Go
and I
tough
think
if
the
you don't
minutes, I
hear
think,
back.
said January or keep going, but they haven't gotten the notice yet. So I think we try it
So
again.
we're still in the friendly stage.
Yeah.
We're not threatening to have a
Right.
public hearing and shut it down. Okay. So that'll be a
And-
February.
As far as the friendly stage, while we have, the Brownfield plan is on this site for the developer and eligible expenses, there are also things in the agreement and in the plan that they are supposed to do that have not been done. So we've been waiting quite a few years. We're not seeing progress. Certainly have the right to move forward, terminate the plan like you did in the Northport Highlands one, if you feel, after getting more information, that that is the step we should take. So I'll have more information for you in February.
Okay. Then item 3, recoup TIF fees regarding envirologic services, now known as Fishbeck. That's going to be a low priority thing to go back?
It won't be difficult to go back and track this. It's all in our claims and accounts. So what I'll need to do is just go back through those, identify what was used for general services that is TIF eligible, and do a running tally of all that, so that we know that when we're pulling in the administrative funds, that we're going to recover those funds that we already spent.
Which ordinarily is done in conjunction with an outside consultant, which
Right.
we
And
aren't at yet.
Yes, and I would prefer that we continue to keep doing that. It's just too much workload on my plate, plus they have the expertise. They've helped us with filing the annual reports to the state. As you know, we recently got audited on one of the projects, and they were able to step forward and help do that. Those are areas that, how often do we actually do those? I just don't have all of that background to do it, so it's nice to have a firm help us out with that.
Okay. All right, so now, I guess we're ready to move on to claims and accounts. And those are envirologic charges that you saw on pages 28 through 32. Are we ready for a motion to have those paid?
So moved.
Support.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes 7-0. Trudy, post audit, budget amendments, transfers.
I don't have anything for you, just a quick report that the 2023 budget is not into our Harris system yet. So when I'm pulling up the general ledger and I want to look at what's in there, it's not rolled over yet. I'm working with accounting and clerk's office, and that will happen shortly, so that I can give you some printouts. And then I have some printouts for you for next month, so you can look at those.
Before we move on, is there an appetite for us to put back on the table reviewing the bylaws and procedures and policies and goals? Or would you like to tackle that in February? Again, for those the members that weren't here for the land bank meeting, I believe all of these documents were approved last year by our legal counsel.
Yes.
So they should be pretty well in good shape. We could maybe go through them fast, but if we need more time for that, we can just continue to put that forward on the February calendar.
Just point of clarification, I think here, your motion did say to move them to February.
Okay, all right, so be it. So, moving on, correspondence and communication items, anything? Trudy?
No.
How about public comments?
Are you the only public we get?
Zach kind of is.
Maybe you need to.
He's been there, done that, Bingham Township and mayor of Sutton's Bay. So nothing there. And director comments, Trudy?
No, I don't have any.
Member comments? Okay, chairperson, none. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We are adjourned.
I have one check for you. Do you want to make the whole thing out this time, or do you want me to do that part?
Might as well, yeah, you write it out.
Okay.
That's fine. So it's my money.
Trudy, are you going to send a notice or agenda or something to all of us, reminding them of our
Special meeting? Oh, yeah, I'm going to get that taken care of right away.
Just tell me you're going somewhere warm.
Cincinnati for work. So is that warm-ish?
No snow?
Well, but there's also, no snow here.
I was gonna say.
It actually can be very warm. Even the,
Some skyline chili.
yeah, it's pretty
You don't like
The
that?
concept's great.
Oh, it is. I agree with that. I agree
Thank
with
you.
It's kind of like saying,
Is there any?
I don't dig the spaghetti.
buildings will be built, be renovated?
like hearts,
Initial pages, sign checks, sir. Good. Oh, great, thank
I
you.
will not be here tomorrow.
Okay,
At least I don't think it will.
okay.
Oh, there's no. There's certain.
This one's
So I
on
don't,
calendar.
I'll still be in Rock. We're going to go back.
Are you working with the builder?
You know what? I
No,
didn't
I'm
stop.
working with the Dominion Group.